Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C, the podcast where entrepreneurs, founders, and ambitious professionals come to learn from those who have walked the path, navigating challenges and achieving success. Whether it's thriving in business, pivoting, scaling for growth, fundraising, or finding work-life balance, dealing with loneliness, adversity, or overcoming personal struggles. Our guests share the insights and strategies that have empowered them to level up. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Chad Hufford. Chad is a financial expert who turned a dream into a thriving reality against all odds. Starting his financial planning practice in 2007 on the brink of a global recession, Chad has built a firm that now manages $500 million in assets, but his journey is about so much more than financial successes. Leveraging a background of biochemistry, athletic training, and sports psychology, Chad empowers others to create high-performing habits, nurture better relationships with failure, and align their lives with faith, fitness, and finance. Hi, Chad. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Sonia, it is a pleasure being here. I'm doing great, and thank you so much for having me.
And where are you at right now?
Anchorage, Alaska.
Alaska. All right. I'm in Toronto, Canada.
All right. Yeah, so a little bit of distance between us. You're
Yeah,
already you're already towards the end of your day.
I am. Just a little.
All right. All right.
So let's get started. For those who don't know anything about you, can we start the episode by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am first and foremost a husband and father. We've got six kids, ranging from 16 down to 4. My wife homeschools them, and a huge part of why I started my financial practice and how I even designed it was to have that work-life balance. I see a lot of entrepreneurs who claim to own businesses, and on paper they do, but in reality, that business owns them. And I started this with the idea that I wanted something that will afford me balance to still be around my family, my kids, but still have a huge impact in the business world. And we have a financial planning practice. We help folks all across the country make sure they don't run out of money or purpose in retirement.
Love it. I mean, 6 kids is a lot of work. I'm from a family of 5 kids. I can't imagine even having one more in there.
There's 5 of us growing up, so I have 4 siblings. 2 of them work with me. And honestly, in some ways, 6 kids was easier than 2. When they're 2 or 3 and they're all little and everybody's kind of helpless, that was kind of a nightmare. But with the older kids now to help out and babysit and they cook and they clean. And right now, as we speak, the 3 younger kids are all working with my wife in the garden. So we're keeping them busy and out of trouble.
Nice. I love it. So let's go to 2007 and describe to me what motivated you to start a financial planning practice despite the impediment market crash and recession. How did you navigate those initial challenges?
I would love to say, Sonia, that I looked at that and I thought, no, I can handle this and I'm going to step forward into the unknown. It was scary enough not knowing that this financial crisis was coming. Had I known, I probably would have been procrastinating. So I actually had a pretty successful athletic training business. We were training some Olympic athletes. I was working with some professional fighters, some police units, and even some infantry units, getting them ready for deployment. And I was making money. It was good, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do for the next 20, 30 years. My degree was in biochemistry. My plan was to actually go into medicine. But again, going back to I wanted to own a business and not have a practice that owned me. So I really was kind of pausing and deliberating on that and not sure what direction I wanted my life to go, but still wanting to have impact, still wanting to be able to help empower people to live more abundantly and create a better future for themselves. I thought medicine was going to be the way I was going to do that. But in 2005, I read a book called Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth by a guy named Nick Murray. And it changed my perspective. And I thought, this is the message that I need to bring into the world. And by the time I got licensed, got all my ducks in a row, it was 2007, and we were on the verge of the financial meltdown. And it was, we didn't know it at the time when I got licensed, but here pretty quickly in 2008, of course, the Lehman Brothers collapsed. You had all these major bank failures, and it was absolutely terrifying. And I had a lot of doubt, felt a lot of imposter syndrome, and a lot of pressure, even from friends and family, to like go get a real job. And like, what are you doing? You should be a doctor right now. Go to medical school. Like that's the easy path. And it was very, very difficult, but I'm so glad that I stuck it out. I would never want to go through it again, but it's been a blessing, and I love doing what I do.
Hey, well, you're like the perfect guest for me because this podcast is called Tenacity. So you mentioned that your journey is a testament of perseverance and resilience. Can you share a specific moment when you felt like giving up and what kept you going during those tough times?
Okay, so I have to pause for just a second because you used two of my favorite words, tenacity and resilience.
Yeah.
And that was a huge thing that even drew me to this podcast to reach out and collaborate with you, because that's what investors need. Everybody thinks they need to know what the markets are doing, which, by the way, nobody knows.
Mm.
Um, and they need a better paying job or a better 401k. But what really comes down to is resilience and persistence. And if you combine resilience and persistence, I think you have tenacity.
Yeah.
And I like to think of resilience as patience under pressure. It's you might bend, but you don't break. And it's with all the pressures, the distractions of this world trying to pull you off the path, you stay true to your course. And that was really, really hard. And I'll tell you one particular moment that was, I don't think it's too strong to say devastating. I was at the university that I had graduated from, and I was trying to get to know some of the professors there, essentially prospecting them because I was really familiar with the university retirement system and just talking to them about their retirement plans and helping them plan for the future. And I bumped into one of my old professors. He's a medical school professor at the University of Washington. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I explained why I was there that day. And he said, "No, no, no. Why are you here? You should be in medical school right now, if not in residency. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your talent. You need to be a physician." And what really stung about that was he knew me well. This wasn't somebody who was a hater. This man, I truly believe to this day, he had my best interests at heart. He knew what I was capable of, and he knew my skill sets. And I really thought, like going home, I felt so empty that am I going in the wrong direction?
Mhm.
And I think what kept, so by this time it's like 2010. And what really kept me going was, we were 2 or 3 years into this financial meltdown by this point, and I saw so much fear. I saw people's lives start to crumble because of what was going on financially. And what I saw was fear and anxiety don't stay compartmentalized in one area of your life. When
Mhm.
you are worried about finances, worry starts infiltrating every area of your life. I saw marriages having problems. I saw relationships between kids and parents having issues. I saw work relationships deteriorating. And I just thought there's such a need for confidence and clarity in the financial realm. And I have a strong message and a great service to offer.
Mhm.
And I kind of just, this might sound more like a hero complex. I don't know, but I just thought, if not me, then who? Because so many financial advisors and financial planners were hiding. They were scared out of their mind too, and they didn't know what to tell people anymore. And people just needed somebody to look in their eyes and tell them, this is going to be okay. We're going to weather this together. And honestly, I think that's a big part of what got me through.
I think that's so interesting what you just said because I feel like we live in a world where mental health has become like this big thing. And I feel like part of it is people don't talk about the stress of finance. And it starts as this little thing. I have a credit card that I can't pay off and I'm trying to pay it off. And it should have taken me a month or two and it's taking me like years. And I do think that stress, that financial stress starts eating away at you and then it starts becoming a bigger problem than what it initially started out as. What's your take on that?
You're absolutely 100% right. Our brains, again, we don't compartmentalize stress. So we have a part of our brain called the amygdala. And what the amygdala does, it looks for saber-toothed tigers. Now, here
Okay.
in Alaska, we actually do have bears. So we kind of got to watch for that. But it looks for something dangerous with teeth and claws that might eat us. So the amygdala looks for a saber-toothed tiger. It looks for a bear. If it can't find it, it's going to find something else to be terrified of. And our brains do not know the difference between a bear chasing us and a credit card company chasing us or a creditor coming after us. It doesn't know the difference between we don't have any food for the winter and I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills next month. So when we feel financial stress, it creates huge, a huge burden on our brain and our psyche that is dangerous financially and is very dangerous physically and emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, I heard once, I don't know the actual number, but I've heard this numerous times that the number one reason why couples get divorced is because of money.
Yes, it's so well, it's interesting you say that because in this line of work, um, sometimes it's really, I'll be in a meeting and I'm like, I can't tell if I'm a financial planner right now or if I'm a marriage counselor. Um, that line gets blurred a lot, but here's what's really cool about that. The other side, when couples start getting open about money and finances, that can be such an intimidating subject and it'd be really difficult because let's face it, Sonia, like so many people, they grew up, the only time money was brought up in their household when it was a negative conversation, when nobody had any money, when somebody made a bad financial decision or somebody lost their job. So a lot of people grew up in environments where money was negative. So what happens a lot of times is we don't discuss these things until the pot has already started to boil over. Emotions are running high. And I mean, all you need to do is talk to a teenager to know good decisions usually aren't made under heightened emotions, right? So if we can start normalizing conversations around finances, not only does it help reduce financial stress, I think it helps with better communication in marriages anyway. Because if you can talk about money and find healthy ways to discuss that, it's amazing how many other subjects open up and become more easily discussed and tackled in inside a marriage or just even inside business relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I find that so interesting, and I love everything you're saying because I went through a point in my life. I read these books, and one of the things that I decided I needed to do for myself was I needed to change my relationship with money. And that was because I was brought up in this tiny little island. We were very poor, and my mindset of money was something negative. So every time I thought about money, I thought about stress and I don't have enough of it. So I went through a point in my life where I had to practice just having a different relationship with money and not looking at money as being like this really bad, evil thing that stresses me out all the time. Right.
But if you do you remember what books that you read that kind of help you shift your perspective?
I don't know it by heart, but I mean, there was one specific one. It's by this girl. Her name is her last name is Graziano, and she's more on the mindset and manifesting. And she has a section of her book, Natasha Graziano, and she
Okay.
has a section where she says where you have to change your relationship with money because if you live your whole life thinking that money causes stress, then you're never going to have money because you're automatically associating it with that negative thing.
Or even worse, you get money and you still have a bad relationship with it.
Yeah, that's
And so what she said is so true. And I actually recently released a book myself dealing it's called Forging Financial Freedom, but it mostly deals on the mindset around money, on the relationship with money because a lot of people don't have a healthy relationship with money and they think more money is going to fix that problem.
yeah.
And so let me just give you a little analogy. So we've got up here in Alaska, I'm sure they have it all over, but we have these guys that come out every year to our Alaska State Fair and they do these wood carvings with chainsaws. And they take this log and they turn it into like an owl or a moose, or I mean, it's amazing.
Mhm.
And but think of it like they have a really good relationship with that chainsaw. They can use it to produce an amazing work of art that blesses and inspires other people. But if they don't have a good relationship with that chainsaw, they're probably going to lose some fingers and toes, maybe some feet,
Yes.
right? So if somebody doesn't know how to operate that chainsaw well, and we give them a bigger chainsaw, that's not going to fix any problems. But
Mm,
so often with money, we expect more money to fix money problems. But if our relationship, the way that we engage with money, if that doesn't change, more money just makes a bad problem that much worse because we now have a bigger issue, a
yeah.
bigger thing in which we're in a bad relationship with.
Yeah. I mean, I totally relate to what you're saying. And it's always that saying, more money, more problems. There's truth to that, right?
There is, and money money can be a great tool, but it's a terrible master. And learning to control money is so important, to tell your money where to go rather than wondering where it went or being worried about where it might go. But again, if you're somebody who's anxious and worried about money, or you have compulsive spending habits, like you're always chasing the Joneses, more money just makes that worse. So I think money has a tendency to amplify the character qualities already are in our life. So it's important for us to change who we are and how we see the world, or money isn't going to fix it. It just gives you a better chainsaw that's going to only cause destruction in your life.
I love the chainsaw analogy that you made. So, you attribute much of your success to God's continual grace and guidance. Can you elaborate on how your faith has influenced your business decisions and overall journey?
That's a big question. I love it though. So here's the short answer. When I was 19 years old, I had a prolonged exposure to fatal levels of carbon monoxide. And there's no medical reason for me to still be breathing.
Wow.
And it was a long recovery. It was very painful. It was at the time it was absolutely devastating. I was mad at the world. I was angry with God. But it took me a while. But at some point, I was able to appreciate what I did have instead of moaning the loss of what I thought I had given up. And what it did is give me this realization that that could have easily been it for me. At 19 years old, that could have been the end of my story. And I did not want to stand before God and try to give an account for my life because I was living pretty selfishly. I wasn't living for other people. And I have been given a lot. And I think to whom much is given, much is expected. And I have phenomenal family. I have phenomenal parents. I had a lot of people that believed in me and poured into me and supported me and held me accountable. And I was wasting most
Mm,
of that. And so that was a really difficult thing for me to think of, is having to give an account for my life and being embarrassed for what I
mm,
was about to hand over. And it gave me a new perspective. And I realized that a successful life isn't what I can produce for myself, but it's the impact that I can create for other people around me. And that changed it for me. And this business allows me to provide a huge impact because when you change somebody's financial trajectory, it's not just their money and their investments that benefit, their life changes. When they have a healthier mindset around money, they actually begin to have a healthier relationship with their future self. And it creates a ripple effect of confidence and discipline in so many areas of their life. And I get to be part of that every single day. And it's absolutely amazing. But I think a lot of that started when I was 19 and I was faced with my own mortality. It really caused me to become more other centric. I'm still working. I'm not saying I got it all figured out. I'm selfish just like everybody else. Every time we have a new kid, it reminds me how selfish I am. Um, but but
we'll
I
do.
think yeah, but I think that's where it started was being faced with that experience and wanting to live with more purpose than just me. And a lot of that comes down to my faith. And I believe that I am called to be a steward of what I've been given. God's given me a lot of opportunity, a lot of resources, even my talents and abilities. And I want to use those to make a big impact in the world.
Well, you can see that because the type of business that you chose is a business of serving in a way, right? You're not, I mean, I guess a lot of businesses are serving, but yours is literally you're working with people and you're serving them to help them overcome financial stresses and manage money. And I'm sure you work with individuals and businesses, because business entrepreneurs and business owners go through the exact same stresses when it comes to money at a bigger level,
Mm-hmm.
if not worse, right? So you are, I think part of your journey is you're giving back. And I think that's so it's so important in our lives to get to a point where, you say, I've done things that I wanted to do and now I'm going to give back. And sometimes it can be such a small thing, but sometimes it can be building a whole business around it. Is that
Well,
what motivated you?
I think it's a big part of it. And honestly, that's a big motivating factor even for our clients now too, because it's this idea of getting to a place of financial independence where they don't need their paycheck anymore. We don't even call it retirement as much anymore. We call it a job optional lifestyle. Getting
Mm,
people to a point where they're taken care of, they don't have to worry about themselves anymore, and they can worry about others around them. And they don't have the time limitations of showing up to a job every day.
mm,
And I think, I want myself and my team to model that is making sure that we're taken care of financially so we can be our best selves to people around us. There's a saying, Will Guidero, who owns several restaurants, was at a conference one time and he said, you cannot fill somebody else's cup if your pitcher is empty.
yeah.
And I think there's a lot of different ways to take that. But I think for us, I remind myself and my team all the time, like we need to be strong for other people because people rely on us for strength when they're having struggles in their business, when the economy is failing, when somebody's going through a divorce or a loved one dies. They've entrusted us with their finances. There's not much that they're not going to trust us with, at least in conversation and in vulnerability. So we deal with some pretty difficult things, but it's also a huge blessing to be a trusted person in that individual's life or that family's life, and to be someone that they can depend on. Again, not just for investments.
Yeah.
Money is just a tool we use to help people build a more abundant life.
Love it. So, what strategies do you use to help clients develop a positive and productive mindset towards their finances?
One of the first things that we do is help them get clear about where they want to go. So a lot of people, Sonia, they're not really strategically investing for desired outcome. They're just kind of collecting investments. There's no real game plan. And it starts with having a strategic goal and a measurable goal. And it's the idea of beginning with the end in mind. So let's
Hmm.
say somebody's 50 years old, they want to retire in 10 years. Okay. So let's fast forward 10 years. What do you want it to look like? Like, what does your life look like if you no longer need to work in your business or go collect a paycheck? What are you going to be doing then that you're not doing now? And we don't even start with the financial aspect. We start with the lifestyle. Like, what is important to you? What makes you tick? When you're no longer running your business, what is going to be your meaningful pursuit? I think entrepreneurs are the worst types of people to be traditionally retired, like to go down to Florida and play pickleball and shuffleboard all day. Like, not there's anything wrong with those things, but the people that are listening to your show, they're probably more ambitious. They need to pursue something. So we start designing like what is the life that you're pursuing, and then start attaching some financial goals to it. And then from that, we basically reverse engineer it to here's where you want to be, here's where you are right now. What does that course look like in between? And we break that course down into measurable bite-sized chunks they can execute on a monthly basis.
Do you think that our education systems have failed kids on educating them in financial literature in schools?
That's an unfair question. I already told you my kids were homeschooled. Um, and it's not just because of financial education. So we could talk about this question all day. So let me try to succinctly answer this and keep me on track.
Yeah.
Um, Number one, it's the financial issues in this country, they're more of an execution problem than an education problem.
Okay.
And it's not just finances. So if I were to swing my computer around, I can show you a McDonald's over here and a Subway over here. So on both sides of me, there are people that are making bad health decisions,
Right.
knowing full well what they're doing. Nobody is pulling into this McDonald's, ordering a Big Mac, thinking, I'm making a good decision for my future. They know full well and they just don't care. They're not executing on the information they have. So part of it is people need a coach. They need an advocate for them, somebody who is going to help them stay aligned with the person they say they want to be and where they want to end up. They also need coaching to hold them accountable to that alignment, to that plan. So that's one of the big things that we offer. But the education is a part of it. And when you go back to the high schools, you can't get through high school without knowing the difference between a sine and a cosine. But
Mhm.
somehow people can go into adulthood without knowing the difference between a stock and a bond.
Yeah.
So there is an education problem as well. And the bigger issue, though, is how it's being modeled. You have parents drowning in credit card debt, car loans, and underfunding their own retirement. They're going to model that to their kids. So even if their kids were taught something different in school, they're probably more likely to model what their parents are already doing, because I believe more is caught than taught. So I think it starts with parents saying, okay, the schools aren't teaching this. I need to teach this and I need to model it. So it'd be awesome if schools did that. That would be phenomenal. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And what I would love to see, though, is parents nurturing their kids in this environment where we normalize conversations about money, and parents share their financial mistakes and their financial successes with their kids, so kids can actually learn from that rather than keeping this as a taboo subject that nobody talks about.
Can you walk me through, we're almost out of time, but I don't wanna end this episode with a good on a good note, or, having something positive. Can you, maybe share something without mentioning names from one of your customers that, you've helped them through where at the end of it, something positive happened, and maybe when they came to you, they were sort of struggling?
We have a lot of examples. The most recent one I would say is actually we're in the middle of it right now. Uh, there's one of our clients is he was recently diagnosed with a terminal form of cancer, and he's in treatment, he's fighting it, but this is a fight he may not win.
Mm,
But to be able to look into his eyes and his wife's eyes and let them know your family's going to be okay. So this
right.
isn't maybe a happy ending, but like that's what all parents are worried about, is what happens to my family if something happens to me. And for him to know that everybody around him, everybody he loves, and his brand new grandbaby, they're all going to be okay because of the work that he did and the sacrifices that he made. And that it's a hard situation. And again, this isn't a completely happy ending, but for him to have one less thing to worry about means so much to me, because he's literally fighting for his life right now.
Mm,
And to know, for him to know that at least from a financial standpoint, he doesn't have to worry. There's a lot of things on his plate. There's a lot of things on his mind right now that are very heavy, but that's one thing that he can put aside and say, you know what, that's taken care of. Um, a little bit more lighthearted, I guess. We've got a couple retiring here. They're just on the cusp of it. And you already asked about my faith. So it's important to a lot of our clients as well. And uh, they're in some very competitive, very, very high stakes, high stress industries. But they're going into ministry, and her and her husband, they both have some very unique skill sets.
mm.
And we live in Alaska. It's very remote. There's less than one person per square mile in this state.
Oh, wow.
Um, and there's a lot of areas that are very underserved because of that. Not only are they low population, but they're very hard to get to, only by plane, sometimes only by boat. And they're going to go out to some of these villages and help people with projects and literacy, all kinds of different things. And they don't have to get funding. They don't have to get people to support them. They're going to be completely self-supported, and they can just go after this thing. This is a life mission that they've done in the summers. They've done kind of here and there, but now that they can completely give themselves over to it because they don't need their paycheck anymore. And it's super exciting. Like I feel like we're a part of that in some way. And to hear those stories and for them to relate the success and the freedom that they feel, it's why I get up every morning.
Love it. So my last question to you is, when customers come to you, are they hesitant or are they open to the change? And what's their journey like?
It's both. I mean, we recognize that even though we have these conversations all day, um, people are sharing with us some of the most intimate parts of their life. They're sharing with us areas of their life that their best friends and even close family members don't know about. How much money they make, how much debt they have, how much they save for retirement, the mistakes they've made. That's a lot to overcome, especially sitting down with a stranger. But our best clients are the ones that are the most vulnerable, the ones that ask the questions, the ones that say, hey, this worries me, or I'm scared, or I am, this is just what's on my heart.
Mm.
So it's both. I mean, some people are more closed off, and some people just aren't willing to make that commitment
Yeah.
to really open themselves up to partner with us. And not everybody's ready for that. But for the folks that do, there's a very high level of transparency on both sides because this is a partnership. You know, we can't work miracles here. Our job is to help guide people and to be part of their financial team. And that's why we use the idea of a coaching relationship. You know, we're trying to help somebody win. We're trying to help somebody succeed, but both parties have to bring their best selves to the table, and trust and vulnerability at the core of that.
Love it. So before we go, can you tell us a little bit about your book and how our audience can find you, contact you, and maybe even use some of your services?
Our website is veritasalaska.com, and don't let the name fool you. We work with folks all over the United States, but we were founded up here in Alaska, and Alaska has a certain ring to it, a certain cachet to it. So they can contact us through there. If they go to the book website, which is forgingfinancialfreedom.com, same name as the book, Forging Financial Freedom, there's actually some bonuses that we can provide your audience if they order through that website, to help apply the mindsets and the principles in the book. Because this book there's some funny stuff, there's some sad stuff, you'll laugh, you'll cry, but ultimately we want people to apply the principles to their life. Otherwise, it's just entertainment.
Yeah.
So education doesn't happen until we start actually applying what we've learned. So we'll provide some bonuses to your audience so they can actually apply the information that they learned to their own life and their financial path.
Love it. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today and first sharing your journey in starting this business and some personal things and how you're helping people. I absolutely love it, Chad. And is there anything that you want to end with?
First of all, Sonia, I just want to say I appreciate it too. You're wonderful questions. You're a great interviewer. This has been my pleasure to be here. And I just want to remind your audience that you are in control of your future, and encourage people to step into the driver's seat of their own life. So many people, especially when it comes to finances, they're focused on everything they can't control.
Mm.
They're focused on the economy, they're focused on the administration, the White House, taxes, interest rates, all those different things. But your habits, your decisions, the choices you make every day, those are the biggest determining factors in the success or lack thereof in your life. So learn to take control of what you can control and ignore the rest.
Love it. Thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate all your time today.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. I want to thank Chad for joining us today. From navigating one of the worst financial crises in history to building a thriving practice centered on empowering others, Chad's story reminds us of the importance of perseverance, faith, and aligning our habits with our goals. I encourage you to reflect on the power of small, consistent actions and how they can transform your future. Remember, failure isn't the end, it's a stepping stone towards growth. And that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of learning, growth, and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and connect with our community on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave a review and let me know what topics you'd want to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace challenges, adapt with tenacity, and keep pushing forward. Keep growing, keep pivoting, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.